Well, UFC Noche is just around the corner, being headlined by Mullet Man Diego Lopes versus Jean the Mad Barking Dog Silva.
Anything else?
We are going to be predicting and breaking down all of the best fights on this card and also giving out all my fight card awards. So let's get into the first fight of Reese versus Sedriques Dumas. So this is a pretty good matchup in middleweight. Both of them have power in their hands. Both of them have had some pretty iffy losses, to be honest. They're both about the same level. And I will say Reese has been chinned pretty damn badly. I mean, against Bakoyev, he's been chinned. He's been chinned against bloody Cody Brundage. He's had some pretty bad losses. But Sedriques Dumas, this guy's had some shit going on the outside, which hasn't been fantastic for him in the MMA game. He definitely isn't fully focused and dialed in. And he's lost against power strikers. He just shells up. He doesn't look confident against guys like Ruzaboyev, against guys like Michel Olajaychek. And don't get me wrong, Dumas has good hands when it comes to boxing range, but Reese, he's just better in the MMA field itself. He's got better kickboxing tying in with his actual wrestling. And unless Dumas is keeping this at boxing range, I just don't see him winning this fight. I think Reese is really good with the kickboxing, just really chewing up the body with that lead left kick, and also just with his grappling overall. Sedriques Dumas just doesn't really have answers on the ground, and I think between those two disciplines, I think Reese is going to be able to really hit the body up, really chew the body, lower Sedriques Dumas's hands, mix in some takedowns in there, and then I think he's just going to find the shot when he lowers his hands, just get a nice hook over the top, drops him, ground and pounds him out, TKO in the second round. Moving up, Tatiana Suarez versus Amanda Lemos. Now, Lemos, for starters, she's got power in her hands, and she showed an improved ground game against Yasmin Lucindo last time out. And Tatiana Suarez, she's coming off a loss against Wei Li in the title fight, and that really exposed her striking, to be honest. And if this does stay on the feet, Amanda Lemos and Suarez, both southpaw, so it's going to be a real race with the strike speed. Amanda Lemos is quicker. So if it stays on the feet, I think Lemos is going to beat Suarez to the punch, and she could definitely beat Suarez there. But this isn't striking, this is MMA. Tatiana Suarez is obviously going to use a ground game unless her brain has fallen out her ear. But when it comes to getting Amanda Lemos down, she needs to make sure that she's not running into anything, but I don't really have any hesitation on that. Suarez does have pretty good takedown entries and good timing on her takedowns, and the contrast in the ground game is just clearly there. I mean, she's just going to be able to run circles around Lemos on the ground. It's not Lucindo here, it's Suarez. Her wrestling game is very, very good, even though her striking's pretty piss poor. But Suarez, when it comes to that ground game, in contrast, she's going to have more of a competitive advantage there than Lemos is on the feet against Suarez. And that's where I think around the end of the first to the start of the second, Tatiana Suarez is going to outwork her, out-transition her, get to the back, rear naked choke finish. Pretty easy. Performance of the night award for me for Tatiana Suarez here. Just the contrast there when it comes to the ground game discipline is too much, and that's why the odds are so spread apart, and I agree with them here. Now, moving up the card, we got Montserrat Rendon versus Elise Pereira. So, Elise Pereira, fresh into the UFC. She is a good addition to bantamweight, but I will say as a disclaimer, she is not Alex Pereira's sister. I originally thought that at first, but it's actually Aileen Pereira. But both of them stylistically are actually very similar. Both of them are very tall. Elise Pereira's got the KO power there. She's 4-0 with KOs, and she's very young, 19 years old, good in an aging bantamweight division, and is honestly taller than most men in bantamweight. So she's got a frame on her. She's got good kickboxing, nasty ground and pound as well. And Montserrat Rendon on the other side, she will struggle if this does stay on the feet. She isn't a finisher. Granted, she doesn't get finished. She's got a Mexican chin and pillow hands, but she does have a good grappling base, and I just can't see that ground game being underestimated. It just cannot be, but I think it's gonna be, because Elise Pereira is 19 years old, and to be honest, I don't know how this is a 3-1 dog for Rendon. Like, I don't understand how she's that much of an underdog, because firstly, Montserrat Rendon with her grappling base, if she gets this to the ground, from the tape that I've seen of Elise Pereira, she doesn't have ways of getting back up. And Montserrat Rendon on the feet, she's at least able to protect herself, whereas Pereira, She's a white belt in BJJ. She has no wrestling credentials. She's just a kickboxer. And Montserrat Rendon getting this to the ground, she will be able to consume Elise Pereira if it gets there. Now, if it stays on the feet, I think Pereira will be able to outwork Rendon to possibly be able to finish her because she is damn aggressive there. But I can't agree with the difference in their disciplines, especially when it comes to that wrestling of Rendon. And Rendon has the UFC experience overall in comparison to Pereira. I mean, granted, they've fought basically the same amount of times, but Rendon's opposition has been a lot better. Elise Pereira's last opponent had a record of 0-7. Like, it's just not ideal at all coming into this fight against someone that has a base that's literally made to work against yours. So, Rendon, I'm giving her my upset of the night. I'm giving her a decision win here, 29-28. I think she's going to take the last 2 rounds. I think Pereira gets very aggressive in the opening round. But if you're saying it's a 3-1 dog for Rendon, who has better UFC experience and is a better wrestler/grappler overall with someone that doesn't have answers for it, give me the underdog pick here. Moving up the card to Claudio Puelles versus Joaquim Silva. Now, this is where the card starts to get tricky, and you'll see the pattern why. Puelles, for starters, he's just looked down upon from his hooker performance at UFC 281, because he was a serial bloody leg humper in that fight for as long as that fight lasted. But he looked great prior to that fight, and I think a lot of people forget that. And honestly, he used better stand-up against Suarez in his last fight. Suarez 5-fight win streak at the moment, and Puelles arguably won that fight with a mixture of control in it too. So there is an argument there for him that he should have momentum. And I don't know if it's ultimately that fair with him being an underdog to this point. I'm pretty sure the odds have even spread so from making this video. I think this should honestly be a straight pick'em, but stylistically, it's hard to reason against Joaquim Silva in this matchup because firstly, he's got triple the output on the feet. He's got good boxing. He's fought good opposition, has better combinations overall than Puelles on the feet, and does have a BJJ base, which granted isn't as good as Puelles, but it can compete with Puelles' ground game. And Silva does have underrated takedown defense, so it's whether Puelles can get it there. And if Joaquim Silva is stuffing most of the takedowns that are landed against him statistically, that's where I think Puelles is going to struggle a fair bit on the feet if it's just solely there, because Silva is better at extending combinations and he's just better with his volume. And that's where I'm going to give Joaquim Silva a split decision win here, because Puelles, he is getting better with his kickboxing, especially from hooker to Z-arm, and now into this fight, it could have improved to the point where he could knock Silva out. Just don't know up until this point, but from what we've seen so far, Joaquim Silva is just the better option to take. Moving up the card to Diego Ferreira versus Alex Hernandez. Now, this is another close fight because Hernandez is very hit or miss in his career, but in his last fight, he shut me up. He came off a fantastic win over Chase Hooper, sat him down with the right hand clean, took him out and cut off all that momentum. And that's just really down to that timing of Alex Hernandez, and he's really showing a better striking game. But on the other side, unless you have really dominating control or you can just land a super clean shot like Hernandez can, it's really just tough to just naturally outwork Ferreira. And Ferreira, granted, he's 40 years old, but he's got a longer reach. He's very experienced against very dangerous opposition like Rabetsky, who he went absolute god mode against. And Ferreira, 7-0 when it comes to the grappling. He's a better grappler than Hernandez, and he just starts off a little bit slow at times. So realistically, I think this is going to be a big battle of volume versus control. And I think Hernandez can take the first round. And if Hernandez is going to win this, I think he needs to take Ferreira out in that first round. But Hernandez, on the flip side, he gets more hittable as the fight goes on, obviously because of his gas tank. And that's where I think Ferreira is just going to be able to sway the fight in his favor through the second and third round, using very good consistent volume over time and making those small adjustments to just get by in this matchup. I think he's going to get hurt in the first round, but I think he's going to come back strong and get the split decision here. Now moving up to Kelvin Gastelum versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Now this, as a matchup when it comes to the odds, realistically should be a rebound for Kelvin Gastelum. But Dustin Stoltzfus, I think, is being extremely overlooked in this fight because Dustin Stoltzfus has only lost to really explosive guys like Abus Magomedov and Bruno Ferreira, who are looking better than Kelvin Gastelum at the moment. And Stoltzfus has a good Muay Thai base and has showed improved offensive grappling, especially against Nasultan Ruzaboyev, who is definitely better than Kelvin Gastelum at this stage. And Gastelum, granted, he's got the experience there for days, and you can understand with his pedigree overall that he is the favorite. But I will say, in terms of his actual performances and the quality of them, he's slowing down a lot. Like, he's durable as hell. We saw what happened with Joe Piper. We've seen with Izzy, all that. But against fairly similar opposition level at the moment, he hasn't looked as fast. He hasn't looked as dangerous, especially in comparison to Stoltzfus' performances against similar opposition. Stoltzfus just makes his fights more competitive. He's got the higher strike accuracy, and he's got more accuracy with his takedowns as well. He's just overall the more active and more accurate fighter here. I think statistically overall, and especially in contrast to how competitive they're making their fights, I'm going to give Dustin Stoltzfus the split decision here. I think just between, honestly, Gastelum's boxing to Dustin Stoltzfus' Muay Thai, very close. Gastelum's wrestling to Stoltzfus' wrestling as well, very close. It's a very close fight, but I think in terms of activity statistically and the reach advantage overall for Stoltzfus when he can use that jab and the teeps too, I think that he can just outwork Kelvin Gastelum in this matchup. Now, moving up the card to Jared Gordon versus Rafa Garcia. Now, this is an interesting kind of contrast in styles. I mean, we got Jared Gordon, who's got 8 KOs. We got Garcia, who's got 8 submissions. And when we look at Garcia, he's good with his control-based game and very good at transitioning to then hunt the submissions. But his competition that he's won against just has not been fantastic. And anyone that he has fought that is on Jared Gordon's level, like your Grant Dawson's, like your Drakkar Close's, he's lost to pretty convincingly in those matchups. And Jared Gordon is just damn underrated in general. I mean, he's a hard guy to take down. He's looked good against better opposition. I mean, Jared Gordon's just had like a pain in the ass of a last 5 fights in terms of what's happened to him. Like the Bobby Green draw, or no contest, where he was going to win that fight. He was going to take Bobby Green out. I'm very confident. The Paddy Pimblett loss, the robbery there. He's had it pretty tough, and going against Thiago Moises in his last fight absolutely annihilated him and he really just showed his worth. And I mean, when we look at Jared Gordon's game stylistically in comparison to Garcia, he's just got way better hands than Garcia does. I mean, so much more accurate, so much more powerful. I mean, Garcia is going to try his best to stick to Gordon like glue and ride out his gas tank, but Gordon doesn't really have any problems with his gas tank and will most likely stuff all of those shots that Garcia is throwing at him. And then I just think he's going to hit the mark later in the fight. I think he's going to get a very nice KO TKO finish in the second round when Garcia's takedowns are just not working. And when Gordon has the floor on the feet completely in an MMA game, I think he is extremely dangerous, which we've seen time and time and time again. And that's where I've got to give him my fighter to watch award. I usually give it to a full-on prospect here, but there isn't really any prospects I'm looking out for in this card. It's not the greatest of cards, to be honest. And Jared Gordon, just in terms of the finishing potential here, I'm giving him my fighter to watch award. He's someone that's going to be entertaining on this card. Now, moving on to the co-main event, we've got Rob Font versus David Martinez. So Martinez, for a bit of context, he's coming in on short notice for Raul Rosas Jr., who had to pull out like literally a couple days ago. And this one, arguably, is a better matchup. I like this more. It's more of an entertaining striking battle. And Martinez, the guy has a super high finishing rate, 10 KOs out of 12 finishes. He is really good with his boxing as well, just really, really good power in his hands. But on the flip side, when it comes to that, he has a high finish rate, but it does come at a cost. He tends to be very over-aggressive and can overextend. And that in combination with a 4-inch reach disadvantage here is going to be very, very big in this matchup. And granted, I could definitely see this fight going like Rob Font versus Marlon Vera, where Rob Font has a lot more volume, outworks Martinez, but Martinez, with the impact on his shots, wins the fight overall by decision. But Vera and Martinez are not the same because of the experience contrast here. It is humongous. I mean, Rob Font's fought absolute killers his entire career, consistently been a ranked fighter, and still holds a very good output and accuracy against almost all of those opposition. And Martinez, he was struggling against Franklin's jab on the Contender Series, which is where Rob Font puts in the most work with his straight shots, and that's where that reach advantage does come into play. And I do think it's going to be like a good back and forth fight, to the point where I'm going to give it my Fight of the Night award here, because the volume over here is just going to be insane. And with how durable both of these guys are, most likely going to be going at least a couple of rounds. And Martinez, don't get me wrong, could get super aggressive in that first round and take Rob Font out, but we just never seen Rob Font taken out, and his distance management is really just a point to that, to be honest. Rob Font he does get tagged, but he's someone that doesn't allow himself to get hit with really, really powerful shots, and I just think that Rob Font, honestly, going through the second and third round, I think that's where he's going to be able to outpoint Martinez to a decision here. I think Martinez, super aggressive in the first round, really tries to take Font out. That's where Font's experience really comes into play, just starts picking Martinez apart, possibly almost finds a finish in the third round with how high his output and his accuracy is going to be in that last round. But ultimately, it's going to be a very fun fight. But Rob Font, with that experience and that volume, he's taking this one. Now, moving on to the main event, we have got Mullet Man versus the Rabid Dog. Diego Lopes versus Jean Silva. An absolutely incredible fight that didn't originally see coming. It was an interesting one to be made. I mean, we all thought that Lopes was going to be fighting Yair Rodriguez, and I thought Jean Silva would get someone like Arnold Allen. I mean, all of them not bad matchups, and I'm not complaining here at all. Now, when we look at the matchup itself, Lopes has the speed advantage, realistically the fastest in the division when it comes to his hands, just that hand speed in general. But they do have similar accuracies on the feet when it comes to their striking. But the problem with that is, when it comes to their accuracies, it's the tools that makes the difference. And Silva is more dynamic. He's a better overall kickboxer, uses more volume overall, like hits like 2 6 strikes more than Lopes overall, which is a fair bit. And the ground game, from what we've seen, is obviously in Lopes's favor, especially with submission-based offense. But I don't see him getting Silva to the ground forcefully. I mean, I haven't seen any issues with Jean Silva's takedown defense. I mean, Lopes is going to need to have great single leg takedowns here, which we haven't seen. And Silva, with that wide bladed stance, that's the only form of takedown issue that will really occur, is those single legs with that front leg getting snatched up. But Jean Silva has really, really good timing with his uppercuts, really good timing with his body shots when the opponent is coming in on that linear axis. When Jean Silva is on a linear axis, he is one of the most dangerous fighters there is. Just insane. Like, there's not many fighters that are going to be able to beat him on a straight line, because he's so good at darting in and out. He's got the KO power there, and let's not forget, he's got the bloody momentum. He's finished absolutely everyone that he has fought except for Kelvin Vallejos, and Kelvin Vallejos is actually a good point to this matchup, because Diego Lopes has great boxing, very fast, strings some nice long combinations together, and Jean Silva going against Kelvin Vallejos, similar to Lopes in the way that they box, Jean Silva was able to outwork him, utilize really nice tips to the body, just cutting away at the body, lowering the hands, landing shots up top. It's going to be a really tricky fight for Lopes. And as a 3-1 dog, initially might sound crazy for Lopes to have that much money against him, but honestly, when it comes to the breakdown stylistically, I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, Silva is just so good with his striking. His precision offensively is just so good. In contrast to Diego Lopes's strike defense, Lopes really jumps into flurries and sometimes just lets his strike defense go out the window. You can't do that against Jean Silva. We've seen time and time again, he will fucking floor you. That is the problem. And I think to that point, with him oozing confidence and just having no losses recently at all, no chance of him even losing at all. I've been so confident with every matchup he's had. He's getting the KO TKO finish here. Honestly, he's going to be getting that in the second round. I just think on that linear axis, Lopes doesn't use lateral movement that much as well, which is a big problem. These guys are just going to literally just run into each other like 2 trucks. And I think if one of them's coming out alive, it's going to be Jean Silva. But I will say, when it comes to Jean, the way that he kind of mocks his opponent, like kind of just, you know, just talks randomly out to his coaches or just talks to people randomly, just kind of showboats basically. That against Lopes with that strike speed should not do it. And honestly, if he's doing it and he gets caught, I'm very happy for Lopes and he deserves to win. But I think Jean Silva, knowing what's on the line, he's got to be damn dialed for this fight. And ultimately, with the momentum, the KO power, the volume advantage, and the ability to keep Lopes primarily on the feet, with Lopes not having an offensive wrestling game, I've got to give Jean Silva the finish of the night and that round 2 finish. Just being the more sound striker, I think that he is going to hit the mark in round 2, getting a straight right down the pipe, darting in off of a flurry that they had. Then he times his shots with the ground and pound, drops Lopes, and takes him out in that second round. Ref waves it off. I just don't see Lopes really having a chance here, honestly, when it comes to especially being on the feet and how they actually stylistically fight. Lopes is going to have to find that KO shot for Jean Silva being complacent. We've never seen Jean Silva be complacent. And Joanderson Brito is a big tell against Lopes, how he was able to outwork Lopes. Jean Silva is just a better Joanderson Brito. I just don't see many options for Lopes to take this fight. Jean Silva is going to win, and he is going to get a title shot after this one. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this predictions and breakdown video, and if you want to see more MMA-based content, definitely check out the video here on the screen. And I really hope you enjoy UFC Noche when it comes around, and please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.